Mountains have always called to humanity, symbols of strength, mystery, and adventure. But behind their beauty lies danger. For every successful climb, there are stories of tragedy where nature proved too powerful to overcome. Today, we'll explore some of the deadliest mountain expeditions in history. Journeys that began with hope and courage, but ended in disaster. The 1996 Mount Everest disaster. In May 1996, Mount Everest became the stage for one of the deadliest tragedies in climbing history. That season, several commercial expeditions set out to reach the summit, filled with clients who had paid tens of thousands of dollars for the chance to stand on top of the world. At first, everything seemed to be going according to plan. The skies were clear, climbers were pushing forward, and spirits were high. But Everest is notorious for changing moods in an instant, and that's exactly what happened. By the afternoon, a massive storm swept across the peak with terrifying force. Winds howled at hurricane speeds. Snow fell so thick that climbers could barely see their own feet. And the temperature plunged far below zero. Trapped above 8,000 meters in the so-called death zone, where oxygen is dangerously scarce, climbers began to run out of bottled air. Fatigue and confusion set in, and many became disoriented in the whiteout. Expedition leaders Rob Hall and Scott Fisher, both highly respected mountaineers, tried desperately to guide their teams down. But even their experience wasn't enough to overcome the storm. Both men lost their lives, along with 6 others, leaving families devastated and the mountaineering world shaken. By the time the skies cleared, Everest had claimed 8 lives in a single day. The 1996 disaster not only cemented Everest's deadly reputation, but also raised difficult questions about the commercialization of climbing and the risks people are willing to take for glory. The 2008 K2 disaster, K2 standing at 8,611 meters, is often called the Savage Mountain because of its steep slopes, unpredictable weather, and deadly reputation. In August 2008, it became the scene of one of the most horrifying disasters in mountaineering history. That summer, over 30 climbers from around the world gathered to make a summit push. The conditions seemed unusually favorable. The skies were clear, the winds calm, and for many, it looked like a rare opportunity to finally reach the elusive peak. By the end of the day, success turned to nightmare as climbers descended from the summit. A towering block of ice broke away from the mountain, sweeping out the fixed ropes that guided them down the most dangerous sections. Suddenly, dozens of climbers were stranded in the death zone, above 8,000 meters, with no safe route home. As daylight faded, exhaustion, frostbite, and lack of oxygen began to take their toll. Some attempted desperate descents without ropes. Others were caught in avalanches, and many froze in place during the long, merciless night. By the time the ordeal was over, 11 climbers had lost their lives, making it the deadliest single event in K2's history. Survivors later described it as scenes of utter chaos, fear, confusion, and impossible choices in the face of certain death. The 2008 disaster reinforced K2's terrifying reputation. Even when conditions seem perfect, the mountain can turn savage in an instant. Annapurna, the mountain of death. In Nepal stands Annapurna 1, a mountain far less famous than Everest, yet far more lethal. At 8,091 meters, it doesn't boast the highest altitude, but what it lacks in height, it makes up for in sheer danger. Statistically, Annapurna is considered the deadliest mountain in the world, with nearly 1 in 3 climbers who attempt the summit never making it back alive. Its slopes are notoriously unstable, riddled with avalanche-prone cliffs and unpredictable weather that can turn a calm day into a death trap within minutes. One of the most shocking tragedies came in 2014. That October, a massive snowstorm hit without warning, unleashing avalanches across popular trekking routes around Annapurna. Climbers, Sherpas, and even trekkers on lower trails were caught in the disaster. More than 40 lives were lost, making it one of the deadliest mountaineering events in Himalayan history. Survivors described the storm as an unending wall of snow and wind, burying entire camps in minutes and leaving rescuers helpless against nature's fury. Unlike Everest, Annapurna doesn't attract huge commercial expeditions, and only the most seasoned mountaineers dare to attempt it. For them, reaching the summit is a rare triumph. But on Annapurna, true success is measured not by standing on top, but by simply making it back down alive. Nanga Parbat, the killer mountain. Pakistan's Nanga Parbat, rising to 8,126 meters, is the 9th tallest mountain in the world. Yet climbers know it less by its height and more by its ominous nickname, the Killer Mountain. The name is no exaggeration. Its steep ridges, unpredictable avalanches, and brutal weather have claimed the lives of more than 60 climbers over the decades, making it one of the deadliest peaks in the Himalayas. Its sheer Rupal face, the tallest mountain face on Earth, is a near vertical wall of ice and rock that tests even the strongest mountaineers. But in 2013, Nanga Parbat's reputation darkened even further, not from nature, but from human violence. That summer, militants disguised as paramilitary forces stormed a base camp in the middle of the night. Inside were climbers from multiple countries, resting after their ascent. In a shocking act of terror, 11 people were brutally murdered. The 1986 K2 Black Summer. Long before the 2008 tragedy, K2 had already earned its fearsome reputation. In the summer of 1986, dozens of climbers from around the world gathered at its base, hoping for a historic season of successful summits. Spirits were high, and the mountain seemed to offer a rare window of opportunity. But K2 has a way of humbling even the strongest, and what followed became one of the darkest chapters in climbing history. Avalanches thundered down its slopes, wiping out camps and sweeping climbers into the abyss. Storms rolled in with little warning, trapping teams high on the mountain for days with dwindling supplies and no escape. Oxygen deprivation, frostbite, and sheer exhaustion pushed climbers past their physical and mental limits. Survivors later spoke of hallucinations in the thin air and heartbreaking moments of watching teammates and friends disappear into the blizzard, never to return. By the end of that season, 13 climbers had lost their lives, and the mountain's reputation as the Savage Mountain was sealed. The events of 1986 became known as Black Summer, a grim reminder that on K2, success and survival are never guaranteed. Its beauty may draw people in, but its brutality ensures that every step carries the weight of risk and sacrifice. From Everest to Annapurna, K2 to the Eiger, these expeditions remind us that mountains are as dangerous as they are magnificent. Each tragedy is a story of human ambition colliding with the raw power of nature. Yet, despite the risks, climbers continue to return, driven by curiosity, the hunger for challenge, and the dream of standing where so few have stood before. Because in the end, the mountains are not just about conquering nature. They are about testing the human spirit, even when the price can be tragically high.